Hey, welcome to the podcast. My name is Eric Cortina. I'm your host. I have been a competitive long-range shooter for over a decade now, but I'm still in learning mode. That's the reason that I started this podcast, because I want to talk to people that I can pick their brains and learn something from. Now, why did I call it Believe the Target? Well, the target is really the only one that tells the truth. There's many ideas, many theories, many experts. However, the target ultimately decides who's right. Anyway, if you're not subscribed to this podcast, make sure you subscribe right now. Go give it a like, and let's get started. Brandon, how you doing, man?
Doing well, buddy. Doing well.
So you're headed up to Canada for a championship?
Yes, sir. For the DCRA full board championship. So all prone shooting, 5, 6, 8, 9, and 1,000. And, should be a good time. We try to come up here every year when we can, when it doesn't overlap, and it's a lot of fun. A lot of good place to shoot. A lot of good people.
So you do. What's your main gig? Is it service rifle?
Yes, sir. So for the Army, for the AMU, I've shot service rifle for 20 years. I've been on the service rifle team. As a part of that, we shoot, the M16, match grade M16s at 200, 300, 600, which is across the course shooting. And then for the long range, I've shot what's known as match rifle and Palma. For the match rifles, we shoot a 7mm RSOM, and for the Palma guns, we all shoot 308s. So I've done a little bit of that for the Army, my entire career. Before that, I shot international air rifles, so three position and standing air rifle stuff as a junior, and that's what I did before I joined the Army and started shooting service rifle.
That's funny. I just started with air rifle.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it?
Well, I'm shooting prone off of bike.
Yeah, okay.
I'm cheating.
Which rifle are you shooting?
I got the raw, the Rapid Airworks.
Yeah,
they have.
Okay.
It's pretty much a bench rest setup.
Yeah.
But man, that thing shoots. I was shooting at 50 yards, and it just. I got about a 3/8 group, 10-shot group at 50 yards in the wind.
That'll work. Yeah, that'll work.
I couldn't get it to group, and then I put a little flag behind the target, and I'm like, okay, just it's like everything else. It's just more pronounced with an air rifle.
You're doing right. Yeah. Just think about it in your 1,000-yard, wind reading. Oh. It'll go right in the middle.
Well, that's what I'm trying to. That's kind of the purpose of it, because I can shoot 100 yards here at my house with the air rifle. And I can just set up a target at 100 yards. And my plan is to practice here just with the air rifle, Hopefully it'll translate.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, some of it will for sure.
Yeah. So how do you even, Army Marksmanship unit, that's obviously a pretty big deal, at least for us, normie
in the shooting community. Yeah. In the shooting community, it's a big deal.
So how do you even go about getting onto the Army Marksmanship unit?
So again, I was a air rifle shooter, so I actually built a packet. I talked to the coaches there that were on the international rifle team for the unit, and at the time, and built a packet of where I've been, what I've done, the scores that I was averaging, and all that stuff, and sent it into them. And at the time, they only wanted collegiate level athletes, and I was in high school. So they actually, instead of just sending me a packet back and telling me to go to college and try again, they actually passed my packet over to the high power team, to the coach of the high power team, because they were also looking for shooters. And even though I had never shot a round of high power competition in my life, the coach at the time was like, hey, we'll give him a try. And so they called me up, and you get a letter of acceptance. If they accept you into the unit, you get a letter of acceptance. You bring that to your recruiter. And then you start going through the whole Army, recruiting system there. And once you complete your initial training, your basic training, your AIT, then you report directly to the AMU and start the job there. So that's kind of how it was. I'd never shot high power till I got, never really been exposed to an M16 till I got into basic training. And then as soon as I got through the unit, they're like, well, here's your rifle, here's your magazines. Go get at it. So I just started, joining in with the training with the guys on the team, and they kind of taught me the ropes. And it took a while. It took several years for me to kind of get it all figured out. But I had a lot of good leadership there, so they taught me a whole lot.
What's the? Can you explain to us what service rifle is, or the type of matches that you shoot? Because I guess tell me what you shoot, because I know you shoot service rifle. I've seen you shoot. You shoot Palma.
Mm-hmm.
You shoot Palma. I mean, there's all kinds of different things. And I'm an F class shooter, and so you know what I do, because we're very specialized. Like I call it specialized because that's all we do. It's a big heavy rifle shooting off of front rest, but you guys do all kinds of different things.
Yeah, we do, and a lot of us on the team dabble in a lot of outside sports as well as far as shooting. But so the service rifle category is a category of the NRA and the CMP across the course shooting. So it's shot standing at 200 yards, sitting rapid fire at 200, prone rapid fire at 300, and then prone slow fire at 600. And that makes up what's known as an across the course event or a national match course of fire. You either shoot a 50-shot match or an 80-shot match. So it's either 10 standing, 10 sitting, 10 3 rapid, and 20 at the 600, or it's 20, 20, 20, and 20. Those are the two basic courses of fire. And then, for like our championships, you'll end up shooting three 80-shot matches in a row to make up your 2,400 ag there for the national championships. So that's the service rifle portion of that, or division. You'll shoot a national match grade M16. So externally, it has to look basically like an M16 A4. We run a Night Force 4.5-hour scope on those rifles. And then the other division of that same course of fire is the match rifle course of fire. And that's where we'll shoot the Tub 2000s, the bolt action 6XCs. And you shoot the same exact course of fire, just with that match rifle, the bolt action, or a semi-auto, 6 Hagar or 6 AR, or one of those other kind of hot rod 6mm.
Whether you're a seasoned shooter or just got your first rifle, you've got to pick up one of these. This is the Next Gen EC Tuner Brake by Cortina Precision. Its simple installation and Texas-built solid construction make it the perfect addition to your rig. Strong recoil reduction and optimal tuning make this the ultimate attachment for improving precision. The rear self-timing nut provides correct timing on any barrel. Our muzzle brakes incorporate an expansion chamber for maximum recoil reduction. Now let's see how it performs. Don't wait. Get yours today at shootsmallgroups.com.
You said you guys shoot a 7 SAUM in those rifles?
Yeah, so only for long range. So anything past 600 yards in our sports is all prone shooting, so a coat and sling and a glove. We don't shoot with any kind of rests or anything. But so they're all built on, all the long range rifles are built on single shot actions, either a Barnard or like all mine are Nasika Bays or Kelbleys. And for the CMP long range or the NRA long range courses of fire at 1,000, we shoot 2 and 20 just like you guys will shoot, or unlimited and 20. And we'll shoot 2 days of iron sights and then 2 days of any sights. So you can either run irons or optics on those. And we'll switch it up. But some of the guys shoot 6.5 by 284s. I've played with both the 6.5 284 and the 7 SAUMs. And then at the end of the championship, you'll shoot a Palma day, which is it's all prone at 800, 900, and 1,000. And it's all 308 for us. We don't, to be legal in Palma, you either have to shoot a 223 or a 308 with iron sights. And we haven't gone down the rabbit hole of the 223s yet. I haven't seen them perform well enough for me to jump ship on 308 yet. So that's kind of the general courses of fire that we shoot.
Okay. Yeah, the 308 seems to be king because, ballistics, right?
Yeah, and you can make a 223 shoot really well, and I've seen them shoot extremely well. But day in and day out, you go into the World Championships over in South Africa, you know how it is over there. If it can go wrong, it's going to go wrong, over there. And, with the extreme weather changes and all that stuff, I've seen the 223s they just give up every other day or something. There's something going wrong with them. So knock on wood, hopefully the 308s will just carry us through.
Well, the 223, it's such a small case. The powder column is so small. So tiny. Even, what do they hold? Like 25, 28 grains, something like 20, that.
Yeah, so 25 is full.
Yeah. So 25. So 2.5 grains is 10%. You know what I'm saying? So that's a big variance. Whereas 2.5 grains on a SAUM, you're probably loading somewhere close to 60 grains.
We're loading, somewhere right around that. I think it was like 61 maybe.
Yeah, well, I guess we should compare it to the 308 because that's the two that we're talking about. But the 308 it's about 90%. You know, I guess it's gonna be somewhere around the 40 something, 45.
Yeah, I load 46 grains. The M140 is the load that I shoot out of mine, and it's done really well.
So it's almost twice as much case capacity. So, the same 10% is it's the 10% on the 223 is only like 5.5% on the 308. But
and it shows
anyway,
up in a big way.
Yeah, well, that's the way I think. When I look at cartridges, that's again, and that's kind of why I immediately went there, because it's if something small goes wrong, or there's a change in temperature, humidity, whatever, right, that affects the powder burn rate, it takes a lot less for the 223 to be affected because there's less of it, whereas exactly. on the bigger cartridges, it's affected less. It's still affected, it's just less.
Yep.
But anyway, so I was talking to you before we started, and I tried to do a little bio on you before we started, and I holy crap, dude, you won a lot of stuff. So why don't you just give me the highlights of what you won and how many times?
Okay, so I mean, if you do anything for 20 years as a job, you're bound to get pretty good at it here or there, or at least get lucky here and there. And so I won the first thing that I ever won with the AMU, with the Army Marksmanship Unit, was the NRA Service Rifle Long Range Championship. I did that in 2005, which is my second year on the team. So then I've won the National Trophy Individual Championship 3 times. I've won the President's 100 Rifle Match once. Won the Mountain Man Trophy 3 times, which this is all the across the course shooting stuff. I've won the Inter-Service Rifle Championships 4 times, which 3 of us were tied at 4. Only 3 people that ever have won 4 of those. And then Ben Cleveland won his 5th one this year. So he's beat me 5 years in a row at it in that championship. And that's crazy to think about that. Having all the military's top shooters there, and he's dominated it for 5 straight years. So just wild. But I won the Inter-Service Long Range Championship 5 times, I believe, which I'm not sure that anybody's ever won it that many times. But I've won the Wimbledon Cup 3 times, the NRA Long Range Championship once this past year, and 2022 was the first year that I actually captured the whole championship. I've got pieces and parts of it, and I've been leading it going into the final day probably 5 or 6 times, and just always get hit by the wind or something. Had sights come loose, and it's kind of all those things, the Murphy's Law stuff kick in. But finally got that one done. So yeah, I've had a pretty good run at it over the years. It's been a lot of fun. Not
only have you won a lot of these matches, you tend to set records when you win. A lot of times.
A couple times, at least a couple times. So yeah, I set the 300-yard line rapid fire record, which was a 200 with 20 X's. It was a 200 with 19 X's. I mean, from like 92 or something. It was, Tom Whitaker set it way back when, and it held on for a long, long time. And I finally broke it with a 20X clean. And then, the inter-service record was a 995 from back in the 90s. It was 1995, actually. Donnie Hyman had it for a long, long time. And then in 2017 or 2018, I can't remember, but I ended up, actually 2 of us shot 998s in the same match. And me and Nick Maurer both. And I out-X'd him by 1X. He had 50 and I had 51 X's. So wow. we bumped that record up there. And that's a hard one to get because it's 20 shots standing, 20 shots 2 rapid, 20 shots 3 rapid, and 40 shots at the 600. So it's a 1,000-point aggregate. And just only dropping 2 points is pretty tough. You got to kind of start out fast and get faster as you go, kind of deal. It's just not much wiggle room there. But I held the long range, that inter-service long range championship record for several years. And then Amanda Elsenboss actually out-X'd it, beat it by 1X, I believe, a couple of years ago. and or maybe it was 2Xs. She got me by 2Xs a couple of years ago, so she holds it now. And that's another one. It's so that for that championship, it's 20 shots, 620 shots at 1,000 for a combined score. It's the record is a 400 with I think it's 36 X's now. Mine was a 400 with 34. I shot a pair of 17s, and I think she has a 30s. No, it's 35. Yeah, so she got me by 1X on that one. But it's just, again, not much wiggle room there. A little bit of wind here or there, and you're out of it just that quick. So there's been a lot of us poised to set it, or doing well going into the last couple of shots, and just get bumped by the wind at 1,000, and there it goes. But it's part of the game.
Yeah, trust me, I know.
Oh, I know you do. Yeah.
I often tell people the difference between, because the liners, and a lot of it, I believe, is luck, or maybe you just doing that much better that day, because the best example that I have recent history is down in South Africa, because when we got down there, we started shooting. And I ended up winning the national championship of the event. Okay. And then at the world championship, I don't know, I ended up 12, 13, something like that. But I was up there like in the top 5 leading into the very last match, and that's where things didn't go well.
It's sideways.
The difference is when I won the national championship, you know how the target starts to come up and you see the spotter right on the line.
Mm-hmm.
And you go, crap, is that a 4? Is that a 5?
Yeah.
It seemed like when I won the nationals, all those liners were 5s.
Yeah.
At the world championship, it seemed like I lost every liner. They were all 4s, and we're talking quarter inch,
and
it
doesn't take much. And I think a lot of it is luck. You just catch a lucky break sometimes you don't. Saying, talking to all my guys, it's better to be lucky than good,
Well, yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah.
The trophy, right. They don't make a distinction. They don't make a distinction on the trophy.
Yeah, I've seen a lot. I've been beat by a lot of people that simply got lucky, And
yeah. Do you load your own ammo?
For some of the stuff that we do, we'll load our own ammo. So the custom firearm shop at the AMU, we have a really nice machine shop and some really good machinists down there, and gunsmiths, and they'll build actually all the rifles. So we all shoot, like I said, we shoot in the Sika bays on our long action, our long range rifles. The M16s are pretty much, you're just assembling parts at that point. They do have a very good system to put them together that makes them shoot really well. But we use, of course, all just really good components in the rifle builds and everything. And then we have a whole nother separate division of the custom firearm shop. That's our ammo development side of it. Mr. Troy Lawton, and Jack Ryder and John Feimster, those guys, and Mr. Grover, they all test and load all the ammo for basically anything that we shoot prone. So if we're shooting standing, we're shooting factory ammunition, which we have loaded, from Black Hills or Atlanta Arms or whoever wins the contract on the accuracy standards and all that stuff. Because at 200 yards, it just doesn't, it doesn't really matter that much. The ammo doesn't need to be quarter minute of angle when you're shooting standing in a 10-mile-an-hour wind, It's just, it doesn't need to be that good. So everything that we shoot prone, basically 300 yards and out, is all hand loaded, with the exception of some of the Palma ammo is we contracted out from Berger and shoot the Berger factory 155.5 full bore ammo, and shoots very, very well. But everything else is hand loaded by our custom firearm shop guys, and basically they'll develop a load that shoots in the majority of the rifles. And then if we get the rifles that are outliers, they'll just, rebarrel them or, try to tweak them and tune them up a little bit to make them shoot the ammo to all of the same accuracy standard.
So if everybody is shooting essentially the same rifle, right? Mm-hmm. How do you beat your teammates? What do you do different? What is it that you have to do because you guys have the same training, same rifle, same ammo, same everything. What's the difference?
Hope to get lucky.
Well, lucky once or twice is fine, but you seem to be training just like your teammate that you say he's won five years in a row.
Yeah, Ben.
What's the difference?
I think you're your outlook on the training, like what the emphasis of the training is. It's not just going through the motions, or you're not just just putting rounds down range for the sake of doing it or for the repetition. You're actually shooting with some focus there, and then being able to recall that when it matters is the biggest part of it. Like really being able to focus and kind of turn everything else off. Kind of gather your thoughts and get back in it is what separates you, keeps you from going down the path of all the things going wrong that can go wrong. Because once it starts to happen, that snowball, it starts to roll downhill. It gets pretty tough. Let me plug my phone in real quick. It's starting to die. Apparently, this takes way more juice than I thought it would.
That's all right.
But that's kind of what separates, what we call. So we basically break it down into elite, emerging elite, and novice shooters on the team. That's how we categorize where you're at in the training plan, kind of where you're at in your progression on the team. And the elite level shooters, if you watch them and the way they go about business on the range, they can turn on the focus very quickly and get right into it without much of a wave there. Where some of the other guys, you let one little thing go wrong or let them get behind on anything, and it kind of derails the train a little bit, and it takes a little bit longer to get the train back on the track. So what I've noticed with the really top end shooters is they can just get the train back on the tracks immediately and continue driving on because they know what matters. They know what their focus needs to be on, and they can do that.
How do you guys categorize the shooters? What kind of metrics do you guys have?
It's all on scores, based on scores and self-evaluation. So we have basically a 10-day training plan. In that 10-day training plan, we'll shoot 2 record days where they'll actually turn their scores into the coach. The coach will kind of rack and stack that way. And it's a running total, keeping, an average of it and everything. And then in that same training plan, we'll do self-evaluations where they get a sheet where they evaluate themselves and the coaches evaluate them, and they can look at that. And of course, when you do this, it works really, really well. But as we get on the road and we travel so much, it becomes harder and harder to keep track of all that stuff. So it's just a lot of back and forth conversations between the team leadership and the shooters, kind of where they're at and where their weaknesses are, what it's going to take to get them kind of over those little plateaus.
How do you go about? You say elite, emerging elite, and novice, correct? Mm-hmm. How do you become the what?
It's not novice. I forget what the term that we had on paper was, but yeah.
Well, whatever. Let's call them novice for now. Yeah. How do you bump somebody up from one rung to the next, and what does that process look like?
So when we originally sat down and did this, and a couple of us sat down and kind of came up with the percentages. So if you're in this percentile, you're considered an elite level shooter. If you're in this percentile, you're an emerging elite, so forth and so on. And it was basically, we did it at the end of the season for 2 seasons, and we looked at the averages of our top 3 shooters on the team, where they placed that nationally, what their averages were, and then how everybody else on the team stacked up for those 3 guys. And that kind of gave us our metric there of if you're here, you're going to be competitive at a national level or international level. If you're here, you're going to be competitive basically at your state and regional level kind of stuff. And then we just kind of showed everybody where they ranked in those brackets. And I can't remember exactly what the percentages were, but like Ben, he's been pretty much the highest performer on the team for the last 2 seasons, score-wise, average-wise. And I forget what he shot, like a 99%, or maybe a little bit more, 99.1 or 2% there. So everybody that was within, say, 0.5% or 0.75% of him would be your elite level shooters. And then everybody that were, within 1% of that bottom percentile there would be the emerging elites and so forth and so on. And in our training, you're not just training to go out there and shoot a score. You're training focused on a skill, be it wind reading, be it sight alignment, be it trigger control, positions. You're training towards a goal, not just going out there and shooting a score. So like probably the first 10 years or so, we had a training plan and we would execute different drills, and work hard at it. But I didn't understand really the intent. It wasn't, I guess, wasn't put out in a way that I could, kind of grasp it. But we didn't understand the intent of the drills. We were just going through the motions and hoping it helped. And then, over the last several years, probably the last 5 or 6 years, we've sat down and wrote a training plan out that had very, very finite focus points of each and every drill, and we put score to the side completely until those 2 record days came into play, and we just worked the drills and worked the intent of the day, and really everybody started seeing some pretty quick gains in performance just because they learned how to focus a little bit better.
Right. Do you guys identify weaknesses on certain shooters and perhaps ask them to work on whatever their weakness is?
We try to, and every day we have a hot wash. So every day at the end of training, hey, look, what did we, kind of good, bad, and ugly of the day for each individual shooter, and that way we all learn from each other's mistakes. There's no sense in me pulling somebody off to the side or them pulling me off to the side and be like, hey, you're doing this. We notice you're doing this wrong. Work on that. It kind of sucks when you're called out in front of all your peers, but at least it gets them thinking about it as well. And you kind of all learn from that, those mistakes. If somebody's rushing through their rapid fires or they're not following through with the shot standing or whatever it is, we bring it up in a way that kind of everybody learns from it. This is how you can work on it. This is one thing you can focus on to help correct that action. Because a lot of times when you're doing something wrong, you don't even realize you're doing it. You're focusing on something else and you're letting this slip by. So it's kind of connecting all the pieces, connecting all the dots there to make it kind of flawless throughout the entire shot execution, is what we're going for. But, so it's, if you're doing it wrong or I'm doing it wrong, there's a good chance that somebody else is doing it wrong too. And if one of us can pick up on it and, and have everybody kind of think about it, make sure they're not skipping over a step, then it's good for the whole team.
That's interesting. I imagine it takes quite a bit to train. How many shooters are on the unit?
So on the service rifle team, we have 16 right now, in the entire AMU, which is comprised of the service rifle team, the international rifle team, the service pistol team, the action shooting team, the shotgun team, the instructor training group, and the custom firearm shop. It's all the shooters together. I think we have right around 90, maybe a little over 90 now, that shoot in all the different disciplines.
In yours, you have 16.
Mm-hmm.
How do you, we kind of discuss how everybody's categorized, but how do you, and kind of we discuss how you get on. How do you get off the team? You just retire?
Yeah.
Or do you ever get kicked off? Can you ever get kicked off the team? I'm sure you could.
Yeah, we've got, so your first 3 years at the AMU, you're on a probationary status, basically. So you have certain gates that you have to meet. You have certain, schools that you have to go through in your military progression there. And we watch pretty hard for those first 3 years to make sure you're a good fit for the team, make sure the team is a good fit for you. You don't want to see anybody out there miserable every day just because they don't enjoy what they're doing. So we pay attention to that quite a bit. The coaches, the team chiefs, and all really watch for that stuff. And we have asked people, to figure out what they wanted to do in life, because this wasn't it. And they have to have that hard conversation. Like, look, we understand that this isn't your passion, and that's okay. Where can we help you get to where you'll be happy? And we've helped people move on to be pilots and to do this and to do that, and get them where they want to be, because they just wanted to shoot. They thought it was just going to be fun, and a lot of them are good at it.
Yeah.
And it is fun, but it's also, trying to maintain a standard, a very, very high standard. And that becomes a job. There's no doubt about it.
That's the hard part. I remember, just coming up as a shooter, it was a lot of fun. I mean, I could not wait to get out and shoot. I was not doing well, but I just, I was learning, right? To
Yeah.
me, that's so fun, the learning, and you go and you kind of suck at it, but then somebody might give you a tip, something to try. I'd come home, try on that. It shows promise. Now I can't wait to get to the next match.
Yeah.
Well, now it's about winning. Like, you know what I mean? You don't show up to try stuff. Now I got to show up to win.
Yeah.
And that just adds a whole nother layer of work, because it is a lot of work once to maintain that level. And yeah, tough.
Yeah, for sure. And focusing, keeping your focus on what you need to focus on is the only thing that will allow you to win. It took me a long time. Like, I got lucky. As Samuel Prasic said, I backed into some of the wins that I won early on because everybody else just fell apart around me or whatever the case was. I got lucky and won one here, win this one there, whatever. But once you start learning how to focus on the execution of the tasks, that's when the performance bumps up. You quit worrying about performance at that point, and you just worry about executing the tasks, and the score at the end of the day will be there. It'll be what it needs to be. And somebody might get you because they did it a little bit better or because they got a little bit lucky or whatever. But if you execute the tasks that you have to do and you execute them as flawlessly as you can, then that is the performance that we're looking for, that I look for, which it very rarely happens. You hardly ever go out there and shoot a match or shoot even a string of fire where you're like, you know what, I did everything correctly for 10 shots or 20 shots or 50 shots or whatever. But that's what we're going for. And that's, when we got some of our, like those emerging elite level shooters to really focus on that versus just focusing on score, they started winning championships and things started going the way that they think they should go. And that's all it is. It's turning your focus from, wanting to win to just wanting to do these tasks as perfectly as you can. And then the score just jumps up.
Lanny Basham taught me that. He said the score and your performance are not connected.
No.
The score does not reflect your performance. And a lot of people think that they are connected, and that's why they get upset. And he says, if you go out there and you execute your plan and you don't win, you should still be proud of yourself because you did all you could. Mm-hmm. You did all you could. Now, you should grade yourself on the execution of your plan, your mental plan, whatever plan you have. And if, so ever since he taught me that, it literally changed how I think when I go to matches. Because like I told you, I shot literally the exact same way at the Nationals in South Africa and at the World Championship. My execution was the same. Everything was, as far as I can tell, I gave myself about a 94% as far as execution. So I was pretty happy. Mm-hmm. It wasn't meant to be. Oh, well, congratulate the winners and keep on trucking,
That's it.
But there's a lot of shooters that get just drastically pissed off just because of the score, and of course, pissed off, I'm pretty sure that's not part of anybody's plan, right? Just you don't add it to the list of things to do at a match.
If you are, you're doing something terribly wrong in my mind. This is supposed to be something we enjoy, and like for us, we're getting paid to do a hobby basically. So you're supposed to enjoy it, and it is hard to when you executed well, you did what you could have do, you needed to do, and you do get beat. It's hard to kind of swallow that pride because, and congratulate whoever did win. Because sometimes they just get lucky. You get the old relay roulette, and you lay up there in a condition that's, just flags on the pole, mirage is just boiling, it's no big deal. And then 15 minutes later, somebody else gets up there and it's a hurricane, or a rainstorm or whatever. And so you can get lucky and just capitalize like that. And when we see it happen quite a bit, but if you execute your plan, you do execute the shots the best you can, and you don't make any glaring mistakes, then you should be pretty happy. It's when you make those glaring mistakes and you did something just terribly dumb, that's when you should be a little bit upset at yourself. And it's nobody else's fault. Normally, the scorekeeper gets the brunt of that, but you should be, you should be a little bit upset with yourself for making a mistake like that. But at the same time, you have to accept it and move on, because the longer you dwell on it, the longer it'll bite you. And it's like standing on top of a snake. You keep standing on him, he's going to keep biting. Yeah.
How do you guys, or how do you personally handle that? For example, you make a mistake, right? Just stupid mistake. We've all made them. How do you log it? Do you address it? How do you overcome that? Or is there a certain process that you have to where you try to, make that not happen ever again?
So we'll bring focus to it, especially in the hot washes after the match. You bring focus to it. You explain, like we'll talk about it ourselves. Like if I did something that cost me points, I'll point it out. This is what I did. This is what led me to that decision, or led me skipping over a step or whatever it was. This is how it got me. This is how it affected me. And then this is how I'm going to try not to do it again. And we'll explain that to the group, as a team. We're in a circle and we'll talk about that. And the same thing, if we figure out something good that happened, or something good that worked in the heat of the moment, something that we haven't really messed with before or tried before, or is out of our norm, then we'll explain to the group the same thing. Hey, look, this is what happened. This is what I tried. It worked. This is what I'm going to do to try to implement this into my plan next time. But on the negative side of it, like, the big thing, I've lost more championships for crossfiring than probably anybody I know. I've been winning, or, been at the top of a leaderboard and crossfired so many times. It's unreal. And it took me years to kind of figure out one of the things that I was doing wrong. And it usually happened in prone at the 600 or the long line. And it would always be, I'd be on the rifle looking through the sights. I would feel the wind or get that inkling that something has changed. I would bend over, look in the spotting scope, make my decision, move the windage knob or not, come back in, execute a good shot, boom, and then go right back to it. But what I didn't do between looking at coming off the sights before I took the aim, you bring the sights to the target, you're looking at a number board. Okay, yep, I'm on number 38, come down, circle, circle, dot, squeeze, 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 bang, and I'm on 38. But as soon as I take my head off, my body shifts a little bit, come back to the right, or come back to the rifle, I'm either on 37 or 39 or whatever, but it feels like I didn't move very much. So I just take the aim and shoot the shot. So I couldn't understand how I was doing it so often. And so I just really started harping on looking at the number board, before, during, and after the shot. It's really focusing on that number board, making sure, of course, we write it on our hands, we write it in our data book, all that stuff, your target number for the day. And really checking that number board a part of the plan, not just initially, but throughout. If anything breaks down, if I take my trigger finger off the trigger, abandon a shot or whatever, before I take the trigger, the pressure back up, even after just a couple of breaths, I'll look at the number board and then come back to the target. And that seems to have cut down a lot of that. So that's one of the biggest things for me. That's bit me more than anything else, is that making that mistake. And I've done it countless times.
Yeah. What's the difference between bringing focus to an issue and an excuse?
So in my mind, though, kind of the way I look at it is, an excuse is easily pointed out, but you don't do anything about it, or you can't do anything about it. Or you can't learn from it, very much. So if you have an issue and you bring something to your focus, the whole reason to do that is, one, to learn from it, to figure out a way to handle that situation and then move on past it. An excuse, a lot of times, when they're brought to light, in my mind, and I've done it, of course, but you let something pull you out of the moment. You let something break your focus, and then you just continue to focus on that versus correcting it and moving on. And that's where I think that's, to me, that's kind of what differentiates just an excuse negatively affecting your performance versus, kind of a learning lesson and figuring it out, moving on from it. So
what's, because we've all heard the excuses, right? Oh,
Oh, yeah.
the wind or my target puller or
Mhm.
uh I'm sure you probably heard more than I have. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, we can come up with some now. I'm here to tell you, I can come up with an excuse.
uh,
I'm a professional.
well, that's what I tell people. Like, you're not a professional. If the shot was your fault, you are not a professional. You should have an
Yeah,
excuse for every case. And
yeah,
of course, that's a joke. But
yeah.
uh, it's and you hear this on the line a lot. And again, that's another thing that I learned from Lanny. It's like, once you're done shooting, you pull out your notebook, write down, self evaluate, write down
Hmm.
what you did well, give yourself a mental score, give yourself an execution score, how your program went, and also write down what you did well and what you need to work on, right? And that's it. Put it away and you're done. None of this going around and telling people, oh, I almost shot clean, but, and if it was,
Yeah.
and then this is the kind of thing you hear up and down the line, right? And I don't know if this
Hmm.
happens a lot for you guys, but it's,
Oh, yeah.
it's the typical, oh, and they kind of tell the story from their perspective as to they would have shot clean except, and if it
Yeah.
wasn't for this or if it wasn't for that, uh, now in your training, do you guys address that in any way?
We never. I don't ever remember having someone tell me or telling someone else, quit making excuses or anything like that. We have just shifted the focus from, talking about what went wrong and why it went wrong and how it affected you and this, that, and the other thing. And we've shifted that, you know, everybody wants to tell the story of, kind of what happened and this, that, and the other thing, whether it was a win or a loss. But what did you learn from it? What did you gain from it? How can it help you be better for the next time? And that's the big part of, I guess using your excuse, uh, to learn from and making sure you're focusing on, what did you learn from it? How are you going to keep it from happening again? And using that as a learning point instead of just an excuse.
Right.
I think that's one thing that we do in our training and our little hot washes at the end of the day is, yeah, we talk about what happened, what went wrong or what went right. And, if we just got lucky here or there, but you always try to learn from it. And once it's done, it's done. At the end of once we leave, and a lot of time we do our hot wash right there at the range before we ever walk off the firing line. Um, and once it's done, it's done. You just kind of let it go and refocus for tomorrow. And, then at the very end of the meeting, the end of the hot wash, we always talk about, what the focus for the next day is going to be. Or that morning, the morning of the next day, we'll discuss, this is the focus of the day. This is what we want you to work on. And you go forward with that. And you kind of just, once the lesson is learned from, the excuse, and then it's out of the window, on to the next thing.
Describe the hot wash process. How does it initiate? How does it end? What goes on?
Like most recently, so we just left Camp Perry, Ohio for the CMP matches. The CMP Long Range Championships is what we just shot last week. So Sunday was our last day of that. But each day we actually did at the end of the award, after the award ceremony, when we had everybody gathered up, because we just had to, we sat through the award ceremony each day, before we ever even walked off from the little the awards area right there. We would just pull off to the side and we would discuss, kind of highs and lows, let everybody kind of talk about, something that went right, something that went wrong. If they shot a PR, we're very big on acknowledging PRs, especially in match conditions. If you go out there and shoot a PR, shoot one, a personal record for yourself in a match condition, then you've done very, very well. Shooting a PR in a training session is much different than shooting a PR at a match. So we try to acknowledge that. We'll clap for everybody, and then we'll discuss kind of what went right, what went wrong, and what we gained from that, what knowledge we gained from that situation, and kind of let everybody go through it. And that gives everybody a chance to kind of air out what happened to them that day, and honestly, it lets them kind of get their mind geared to what's going to happen the next day. So that's kind of how the hot wash. It's normally initiated by either the team coach and the team chief, and then kind of just goes around to everybody in the circle. And we just real quick ups, downs, lefts and rights, and move on.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, you gotta just I guess air it out and because otherwise you're just gonna think about that all the way home. We've had those drives. I think we've all had those drives.
Oh yeah. Oh man, more than you can. Yeah, more than you can imagine.
Yeah, where you did something and then you're just driving home and that's all you can think about. And
Yes.
I used to get telephonitis. I used to call it telephonitis, where I'm driving home and I'm calling everybody that I can think of to discuss that issue. And like, okay. And, oftentimes it ended up in, I need a different gun. I need a bigger gun. I need to do this,
Yeah.
But I've learned to just, like you said, no, it's the gun I have is perfectly adequate, because a lot of people are winning with it, It's just right here, a lot of it.
Yeah.
So do you guys do any mental training purposely?
Yeah, so we actually have basically a sports psych that the unit contracts. Then we send the shooters do video calls with them and discussions with them.
Anyway, as I was saying, once I put myself under match pressure more often, my performance started to do better, in competition. Again, it's all competition, right? It's all managing stress. And maybe I wouldn't win, but at least I was putting myself in a position to win more often. And when I didn't win, it wasn't the end of the world. I didn't win,
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for, setting yourself up for a win, like putting yourself in a position to be able to win. And if it doesn't connect at the end, it doesn't connect. But if you do everything, correct enough to get you in the top, say the top 10 or whatever, then you've executed pretty well at that point. If you're in the right crowd, there's a lot to be said for that in my mind. That it takes a lot of luck to win, no matter what. You got to catch a good break here or there, because you can execute everything perfectly and still get bit by the wind, or still get bit by something, mirage or whatever the case is, and it just it's not always going to go your way. But if you're consistently in the top, especially if you're in the top three, if you're finishing podium finishes pretty regularly in a pretty stiff crowd of competition, then you are on the right path. You just need to keep refining and keep working towards it. Don't get disgruntled, or discouraged by the fact that you're in third or you're in second, here and there. Just really focus on refining the tasks and the execution piece of it, and eventually that luck will hit for you.
Yeah, well, yeah, eventually, because oftentimes you get lucky, but if you're in 20th place, now you just move up.
No matter how lucky you get.
Well, you move up to 16 or 15 or 12 or 9. It's still it's great, but it's still not going to get you there. So David Mann used to always say the key to winning is put yourself ahead of the pack on day one, and then never lose the lead the rest of the way.
If you want to win, that's the surefire way to do it.
That was his secret.
There's a couple people I've seen perform really, really well from a point or two back. I've done pretty well from that, coming back from fighting my way out of a hole, because if you have a rough standing match, you're already down a point or two or some X's or whatever. If you can turn it around and turn that into focus instead of just being mad about it, a lot of times you'll have a really good performance for the rest of the day, because you're really focusing hard on. You're not afraid to win at that point. A lot of times if you're in the lead, you're just afraid to lose it. So you're scared to lose the lead, and that'll detract from the execution, and it kind of puts a negative spin on things for you. But if you've already lost, all you can do is just execute better at that point.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it'll work.
Well, there's a big difference between shooting to win and shooting to not lose.
Yeah.
Big
100%.
difference. And oftentimes I've seen shooters make that switch on the last day, and that's when they just kind of go downhill.
Yeah. They watch it happen.
Yeah. They shoot, they abandon what's been working and that's it. Once it,
try not to lose.
Yeah, and that's it, man. It's just a big switch, and I've seen it happen, and it's happened to me. It's happened to everybody, and it will happen to everybody that in the shooting sports, at least once. But learning to manage and to not make that switch is key.
Yeah, to me, it's all about staying focused. You know, and it's hard to do. I don't know why it's so hard to focus on a few little things, but to stay focused on those few little things, that's all you have to do. You know, are the sights aligned? You know, am I as still as I can be? Do I have a rough handle on the wind? And did I execute a good shot? If you can do those couple of things, the vast majority of the time, you're going to outperform, you know, everybody else. And it's just so hard to do it for whatever reason. You know, you let something else slip in your mind, and you know, you lose track of, you know, shot execution. And that's normally what we see in our game is, you know, people start doing things very quickly on the trigger, or they start moving the gun real fast, or, you know, whatever the case is. And, you know, shots are coming up off call. And that's big for us because the gun's moving all the time. It never sits still if you're not, you know, if it's not on a rest, it's always moving. Even in prone, it's still moving. You know, and it's, if you induce extra movement on top of that, that's when you get the problems and the shots are off call. And that's normally what happens. That's normally where we, where our deficiencies show up, is get a little excited or whatever, and they start going outside of call, and that's no good. But it's hard to focus on those couple little things.
Yeah, because it's going to go everywhere except where you were aiming.
Oh, 100%.
That's the last place it's going to go once you move it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
All right, man. I appreciate you being here. I'm going to have you back. We can have a talk. I want to talk about wind. I want to have an episode talking strictly wind reading, because I know that's a huge topic, and obviously you're good at it. So let's have you back one day and talk specifically about that. But anyway, again, good luck this weekend. And,
thank you, bud.
You know, get it done, man.
Yeah, same to you, buddy. I appreciate being on here, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, man. Keep them centered.
Take care.
Later.
Yes, sir. Take care.